The meeting rooms of City Hall are closed. However, Commission members and staff will be participating in today's meeting remotely. This precaution is taken pursuant to the various local, state, and federal orders, declarations, and directives. Commission members will attend the meeting through video conference and participate in the meeting to the same extent as if they were physically present. Please note that today's meeting is being live cablecast on SFGov TV and Streamlined live online at sfgovtv.org/ethics live. Once again, streamed live online at sfgovtv.org/ethics live. Public comment will be available on each item of this agenda. Each member of the public will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Comments or opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available via phone call by calling 1-415-655-0001. Again, the phone number is 1-415-655-0001. Access code is 146-693-8503. Again, access code 146-693-8503, followed by public. The meeting rooms of City Hall are closed. However, Commission members and staff will be participating in today's meeting remotely. This precaution is taken pursuant to the various local, state, and federal orders, declarations, and directives. Commission members will attend the meeting through video conference and participate in the meeting to the same extent as if they were physically present. Please note that today's meeting is being live cablecast on SFGov TV and Streamlined live online at sfgovtv.org/ethics live. Once again, streamed live online at sfgovtv.org/ethics live. Public comment will be available on each item of this agenda. Each member of the public will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Comments or opportunities to speak during the public comment period are available via phone call by calling 1-415-655-0001. Again, the phone number is 1-415-655-0001. Access code is 146-693-8503. Again, access code 146-693-8503, followed by the pound sign, and then press pound again to join as an attendee. You will hear a beep when you are connected to the meeting. You will automatically be muted and in listening mode only. When your item of interest comes up, dial *3 to raise your hand and to be added to the public comment line. You will then hear, "You have raised your hand to ask a question. Please wait until the host calls on you." The line will be silent as you wait your turn to speak. Ensure that you're in a quiet location. Before you speak, mute the sound of any equipment around you, including television, radio, or computer. It is especially important that you mute your computer if you are watching via the web link to prevent feedback and echo when you speak. When the system message says your line has been unmuted, this is your turn to speak. You will hear staff say, "Welcome, caller." We encourage you to state your name clearly. As soon as you begin speaking, you will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you change your mind and wish to withdraw yourself from the public comment line, press *3 again. You will hear the system say, "You have lowered your hand." Once your 3 minutes has expired, staff will thank you and mute you. You will hear, "Your line has been muted." Attendees who wish to speak during other public comment periods may stay on the line and listen for the next public comment opportunity and should raise their hands to enter the public comment line by pressing *3 when their next item of interest comes up. Public comment may also be submitted in writing and will be shared with the Commission after this meeting has concluded and will be included as part of the official meeting file. Written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Once again, written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can you please call the roll? And I just want to make an announcement. Commissioner Lee is excused for the first part of this meeting. She had a conflict, but she will be joining us shortly. Thank you.
Please stand by. Commissioners, please unmute your microphone so that you can verbally state your presence at today's meeting after your name is called. Chair Ambrose,
Present.
Commissioner Bell,
Here.
Commissioner Bush,
Present.
Commissioner Chu.
Here.
Madam Chair, with 4 members present and accounted for, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting today. And in the interest of time, we're going to call agenda item 2, public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda. Members of the public who are already on the line and wish to speak should now dial *3 if you've not already done so to be added to the public comment line. Moderator, can you please proceed with public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Ethics Commission is now receiving public comment on agenda item number 2, remotely in this meeting. Each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to provide public comment. If you joined the meeting earlier to listen to the proceedings, now is the time to get into the line to speak. If you have not already done so, please press *3. It is important that you press *3 only once to enter the queue, as pressing it again will move you out of the public comment line and back into listening mode. Once you are in the queue and standing by, the system will prompt you when it's your turn to speak. So it's important that you call from a quiet location. Please address your comment to the Commission as a whole and not to individual members. Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. Please stand by.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have a caller in the queue. Please stand by. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Ellen Lee Zhao. That is ELLEN LEEZHOU. I am a public social worker. I am a union delegate for government employees. I am also a member for Revival San Francisco. That is to remind all of you in San Francisco to return to God. I have been coming to you ethics commissions for many, many times, started from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and the last I spoke to you virtually over the phone was March 12, 2021. 2022, you all know, San Francisco evil one-party public politicians, they authorized $5,000 a month for anyone come to San Francisco sleeping inside a tent. For people who have disability, spend $17,000 a month. And for an average homeless person, that is $8,000 a month. We, the city, because of the lawless politicians, they spent $12.3 billion a year for a single city, San Francisco. You all remember, 2020, we had more than 700 people overdose, die, and pass away on the street. And right now, we have 20% empty housing units available, but yet the lawless, evil politicians talking about building affordable housing when we have 75,000 empty units available. You all know San Francisco politicians, they support baby killings to murder our unborn babies by using our public money. They support illegal drugs by continue advocating to open illegal drug site injection sites. And you know the lawless, evil politicians, there's only one party, they support drug dealers by giving free needles, 5 million a year, of 50% of them down in the toilet in the Bay Area. I am here today to request Ethics Commission, you, all of you, to review the situation with the failed city with about 18 elected officials to return law and order, enforce law and order to protect us, the people who pay taxes, who pay the price to live in a city, San Francisco, we do not
Your
need...
3 minutes has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Are there any further commenters in the queue?
Please stand by. Madam Chair, there are no further callers in the queue.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed on agenda item 2. I'm going to call agenda item 3. The consent calendar, draft minutes of the Commission's June 11th, 2021 regular meeting. If any member of the public intend to offer, wait, I think there's another, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my third. There are 2 items on consent, right? The draft minutes and one of the stipulations.
Correct.
Are you calendared that as agenda item 4? I'm sorry, just a minute, because we can call them together if they're both on consent. Okay, so I'm going to call the consent calendar items 3 and 4 together with one roll call vote, unless there's somebody who wants to take either the draft minutes or the proposed streamlined stipulation decision in order in the matter of yes on Prop C versus Universal Childcare in San Francisco, and move it to regular calendar. Seeing no request to do so, both of those items are being called together, agenda item 3 and 4. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar? If you could please check, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Ethics Commission is now receiving public comment on consent calendar items number 3 and 4 remotely in this meeting. Each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to provide public comment. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you have just joined this meeting early to listen to the proceedings, now is the time to get into the line to speak. If you have not already done so, press *3. It is important that you press *3 only once to enter the queue, as pressing it again will move you out of the public comment line and back into listening mode. Once again, if you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently taking public comment on consent calendar items 3 and 4. If you have not already done so, once again, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. Please stand by. We have a caller in the queue. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Thank you again, Ethics Commissioner. I spoke in item 2 for a lawless, tyranny city officials that is running City Hall. There's only 18 elected officials. You, the Ethics Commission, had a duty to protect the integrity of government. I am so sad to see you who volunteer your time. Some of them you get paid. There's only one me in the line for public comment. I remember when you opened a City Hall in person, you had more people go in and listen. But now you're running an Ethics Commission public hearing all by yourself. That means the general public has not informed about whatever the item that you talk about, childcare, universal childcare, or anything that you talk about. I believe, in my honest opinion, as a San Franciscan for the last 35 years, please do some outreach to the people that you impacted in the item that you talk about, childcare for San Franciscans, universal childcare for San Franciscans. Who are the beneficiaries? Did you do any outreach to parents? Did you do any outreach to all San Franciscans who are planning to have families? You all know the entire unified school is failing because we are not open What are you going to do with childcare? Will you be able to open? Where do you get the money to support families? Are you going to attracting more non-San Franciscans just for the sake of benefits or welfare to drain more higher taxes for San Franciscans? I'm asking you, ethics commissioners, if you spend your time keep talking to yourself only, there's no public comments. That's the point I want to make. Remember, my name is Ellen, ELLEN LEEZHOU, Ellen Lee Zhao. I am a San Franciscan. I live in District Number 9. I've seen a failing ethics commission fail to enforce law and order. At least I know that you today, there's only one me in here for public hearing. I have no idea if you have any public hearing, anyone spoke to you at all from the public the last 15 months other than March, because I was here March 12, 2021. Please do some outreach, reach out to the people on the items, on the matters that matters to San Francisco, not just talk about among yourself. Then
Your 3 minutes
you
has
put out to
expired.
the public. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Caller, are there any further callers in the queue?
Please stand by. There are no additional callers in the queue, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to approve items 3 and 4? Commissioner Bell moved in a
So
second.
moved.
Okay, so there's a second.
Second.
So if you call the roll on both agenda items 3 and 4 on the consent calendar, Mr. Moderator.
A motion has been made and seconded to items number 3 and item number 4 of the consent calendar. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Chair Ambrose.
Aye.
With 4 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call agenda item 5 on the regular calendar. This is a proposed streamlined stipulation decision and order in the matter of Cammy Blackstone, SFEC complaint number 1920-010. And I'm going to ask Jeff Pierce from our enforcement division to speak to this matter. And while we're waiting for Jeff to come up, if any member of the public intend to offer public comment for this item, they should dial in now and enter *3 to be added to the public comment queue. And now, commissioners, if you have questions for Jeff or comments that you want to discuss about this, please raise your hand.
Thank you, Chair Ambrose. I will hand it over to Senior Investigator Eric Willett, who administers the Streamlined program.
Thank you.
Morning, Chair Ambrose, Commissioners. This is Senior Investigator Eric Willett, here to field any questions you may have about this particular STIP.
I see Commissioner Bush's hand up. If you want to go ahead, Commissioner Bush.
Thank you. I want to, just by way of background, are these the first cases that we've had involving lobbyists?
Yes, Commissioner Bush, these are the first provisions of law that are covering the lobbyist ordinance that we put before you under the Streamlined program, so you're correct.
And in this particular case, did the lobbyist initially disclose that there were no contacts?
In this matter, no. Ms. Blackstone had reported all contacts, but it had failed to include the payment she had received from her employer, which is, in this matter, Ms. Blackstone is an employee of AT&T, and we had contacted her to amend those filings and reflect the portion of her salary that covered the time it took to make those contacts.
So the disclosure did include who she contacted and what the topics were?
Yes, that's correct. It only had failed to report payments received from her employer.
And does that account for the fact that the stipulation is at the level that it is?
Oh, can you expand upon that, Mr. Commissioner Bush?
Did the fact that those two elements were disclosed account for a lower stipulated penalty than it might have been otherwise?
I see. So Ms. Blackstone took the corrective action to file those amendments and returned the signed stipulated agreement within the first 30-day span, which reflects a Tier 1 penalty calculation, which in this matter is $500 plus 15% of all payments received. So the stipulated agreement is an amount of $1,112, which would mean that 15% of the previously unreported payments was $612. So as I mentioned, these are Ms. Blackstone is a staffer and had failed to report the percentage of the salaries. There's a calculation there that would reflect the amount of time it took to make those individual contacts.
If I could offer one clarification, if I understand the question, Commissioner Bush, I think, you know, as Mr. Willett is describing, this was not a shadow lobbying case. There was no instance of lobbying, so far as we could tell, that had gone undisclosed. We saw it essentially as a paperwork case that the Streamlined program was designed to handle in this accelerated manner. So there were no aggravating considerations here, and all of the calculations were within the thresholds and guidelines that the Streamlined program asserts. So to your question about whether this would have been a different stip under a different set of facts, certainly, and staff could have pursued this differently if there had been different facts or aggravating factors.
Thank you. That clarifies things for me on this case.
Thank you. Is there another comment? If not, I'm going to call for public comment. No, I see none. Mr. Moderator, can you please call for public comment?
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 5, proposed streamlined stipulation, decision, and order in the matter of Cammy Blackstone, SFSC complaint number 1920-1010. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
All right, public comment is closed on agenda item number 5. Thank you, Commissioner Bush, for bringing out some of the background on that case. I appreciate it. But I would like a motion to approve the stipulated settlement, if there is one. And that would be Commissioner Chu has moved. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Bush. Can you please call the roll?
Yes. A motion has been made and seconded. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush.
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Chair Ambrose.
Aye.
With 4 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. I'm going to call agenda item 6, which is another proposed streamlined stipulation that was taken off the consent calendar. This is regarding the decision and order in the matter of Jennifer Stojkovic, SFEC complaint number 1920-011. And again, I'm going to turn to Mr. Pierce to lead us into the discussion.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Ambrose. And I'm going to give it back to Senior Investigator Willett.
All right. Thank you. So, Eric?
This case is very similar to the previous matter resolved in agenda item number 5. The only difference here is that Ms. Stojkovic, upon reviewing her records, noticed that she had failed to report one contact. So in addition to amending her previously reported contacts to reflect the payments received for those contacts, there was 1 month in which she had added a contact not previously reported in addition to the payments not previously reported.
So I'm going to start because I guess maybe I didn't read it closely enough. My impression was that there were multiple years when the contacts were not disclosed. Is that, did I read that wrong? It's been a while since I looked at it.
There were 22 total amended monthly reports in this matter. And on the language of the STIP, it does say and or the payment she received from her employer. So maybe there's some details lacking there for a split between how many months it was amended to reflect the payments received and how many included payment received and an additional contact. So I can say the background in this one was 1 month in which there was an additional contact not previously reported that was amended to reflect.
And how did that information about the missing contact come to light?
It came through self-disclosure by Ms. Stojkovic, when she was reviewing her records to amend them to reflect the payments received. She noticed that she had an additional contact and went ahead on her own recognizance and filed that amendment.
Okay. All right. No, thank you for that. All right, Commissioner Bush, your hand is up. I don't know if you had comments on this or if that was from the last time. You're muted, Commissioner Bush.
Oh, thank you. As I read the stipulation, there were many months beginning in, I think, 2017, in which her reports were going to have to be amended. What were the amendments?
The amendments they were primarily to reflect payments she received from her employer, and this is again similar to the previous matter, and that is Ms. Stojkovic is employed by city and had to amend her reports to reflect the portion of her salary spent on making those contacts. So SARP has specific eligibility requirements for inclusion within the program as well as exclusion from the program. And these matters, because they were only a portion of their salaries, they were still under the SARP provisions eligibility standards. And in particular, Ms. Stojkovic, he also took the corrective action within the 30 days and signed and returned the stipulated agreement. And her penalty is $500 plus 15% of previously unreported payments. And 15% of her previously unreported payments in this matter is $431. So a very small amount of her salary.
In each of those months, did she disclose with whom she had contacts?
Yes, Commissioner Bush, with whom she had contacts and the matter that she was attempting to influence with administrative or legislative matter was also included with the file numbers.
That didn't come through clearly in the stipulation, and I would urge that in future stipulations clarify what was and what was not disclosed to the public as part of this process. I understand from looking at the webpage for SF City that it's a nonprofit. Is that correct?
I believe so.
So why is a nonprofit just making disclosures as though it were a lobbyist? Because we exempt nonprofits from lobbyist disclosures.
We do for certain types of fee organizations, and I believe that city is a different type of fee organization that is not exempted from their reporting requirements under the lobbyist ordinance.
On their webpage, it also shows that they provide to the public and to their members a list of recommendations, including recommendations of endorsements and voting for members of the Board of Supervisors. It's my understanding that nonprofits are not permitted to endorse candidates for office. Isn't that correct?
If they're doing it, I believe, through their different fee organization type, then I think that is a way around that prohibition.
I might just add quickly, Commissioner Bush, that if a nonprofit in the city is engaged in conduct that might jeopardize their tax exempt status, that certainly would be beyond the scope of the commission's jurisdiction.
No, but it's an important thing to know about. So I think it's okay to talk. I mean, and it's important to know. I didn't realize that there was a difference between 501c3s that could and couldn't engage in political conduct, but I assume that's the basis for the different treatment under the lobbyist ordinance. Is that a fair assumption?
That's correct. And Deputy City Attorney Shen can.
Yeah, if I may weigh in a little bit. Good morning, and I'm not really a nonprofit law expert, so maybe I'm entering into treacherous ground here. But there is an exception in our lobbyist ordinance for contacts made by a C3 or C4 nonprofit organization. Commissioner Bush is correct that 501c3s are not allowed to endorse candidates. They can weigh in on ballot measures, however. It's possible, I'm not that familiar with this organization, that SF City is a C6, which is another fairly common type of 501c that operates in the city. A C6 is a trade association. So for example, something like the Chamber of Commerce would probably be a C6. So the different classifications, different types of 501cs can engage in different levels of political activity.
All I know about this is from looking at GuideStar, and GuideStar does include them as a nonprofit, as a 501c3, and includes their filing with the Form 990, which is done by 501c3s. And that led to the question about, if that's the kind of organization they are, then why on their webpage do they promote people to support or oppose certain candidates running for the Board of Supervisors?
Yeah, and certainly, perhaps we're getting a little far afield from the settlement. I mean, if there is concern about their tax status and what they're allowed to do under that tax status, I mean, I think that certainly raises a legitimate issue. But as Jeff mentioned, outside the commission's jurisdiction, certainly the commission, who's probably more familiar with their operations than I am, can consider a referral to the IRS. The IRS would be the agency that enforces such matters.
Or the state tax agency as well, right?
That's possible. I suppose the Ethics Commission can reach out to FTB, the Franchise Tax Board. That may be another relevant agency as well.
I'm gonna, given that, I do think, I appreciate staff's work on the stipulated settlement. I did want to hear how this fits into the context of the overall lobbying ordinance, but now we're definitely getting off of the agenda. So I'm going to move us back to Mr. Moderator. Can you please ask if there's any public comment on this particular item?
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 6, both streamlined stipulation, decision, and order in the matter of Jennifer Stojkovic, SFEC, complaint number 1920-011. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by.
Chair Ambrose, if I may, while the moderator is looking for public comment, to Commissioner Bush's question about whether nonprofits have to disclose their contacts, it's our understanding that, as Senior Investigator Willett put it, there is an exemption in the law, but only for nonprofits of a particular size. So if we review the ordinance and we look at the exclusions from the definition of contacts, it's C3s and C4s, but only those who filed either a 990N or a 990EZ. And it's our understanding, having reviewed those filings, that those accelerated filings are available only to nonprofits below a certain revenue stream or operating budget, but that nonprofits whose revenue or operations exceed those thresholds and file instead a 990 do not qualify for this exemption in the definition of contacts.
Thank you for that. I always appreciate learning something new, and I think it's good to know as we hopefully see more of these lobbyist enforcement actions. I want to welcome Commissioner Lee to the meeting. I wish you were really sitting on that lovely beach somewhere. I've got to learn how to use those backdrops someday. With that, back to the moderator. Do we have any callers?
Madam Chair, we have callers in the queue. Please.
All right, thank you.
Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi there. I just wanted to point out that this type of behavior is the whole reason for the creation of the Ethics Commission. So I really commend the board for taking this action. However, I want to note that there are specific penalties for misreporting, including a $50 a day fee for each instant of not correcting the report. That would make her fine well into the 6 figures. So the penalty being assessed here today seems to fall short of true justice, and I really hope the commission takes this into consideration. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for doing what you do. It is so important to the continuation of running this city. Thanks.
Thank you, caller. Please stand by. We have another caller in the queue. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Good morning, commissioners. This is Charlie Marsteller. Greetings to those of you I haven't seen for a while, and my greeting to the new commissioner who I've never met. I just wanted to speak on this matter, just briefly, to raise the question of whether it's ripe, in the sense that with so many months and years of non-disclosure, whether it would not be advisable for the commission to have the filer cure the missing reports prior to basically making a recommendation on the stipulation before the issue comes before the commission. I think the public should see what's going on, and better transparency would be afforded if you required the filings to occur before the item was taken up by the commission. And I think that's the case really for any lobbyist. I don't know what your current rules are, but if that's not the rule, it should be changed to be that way, in my view, or at least examined in detail. And that's all I wanted to say. So again, good to see you all, and I'm glad you survived the epidemic, and I hope all of those who you are close to and your friends also survived well at this difficult time.
Thank you, Mr. Marsteller. It's nice to hear your voice again. On the point that you raised, I'm going to just take a minute because I want to hear from staff. I noticed that as well, that I understand that we want to acknowledge and reward behavior where compliance is within a certain time period and that they expeditiously sign the stipulation and we can, complete the enforcement action. But the question that he raised, so if they file, if they sign the stipulation and file the disclosure, the missing piece, my impression is that we do get that before the commission meeting, right? That was set for June 30th or something like that, so that we do have the completed packet. But it seemed like there were options where we could have an action on this, but then they would pay more money to not give us the information until after the meeting. Aren't there like 3 tiers of, if you don't pay until, the end of July, then you owe more money, but then we would not have seen the information before we acted on it?
Oh, Chair Ambrose, Eric Willett, there's no instance in which we would present a stipulated agreement to the commissioners without having verified that corrective action was taken and the veracity of that corrective action was assessed. And in some instances, the corrective action is part of the calculation for the penalty amount in addition to the days that elapse. So
so you have the information and it's available to the public. Okay, all right.
Yeah. And the different dates that are provided are, if it takes longer than 30 days to take the corrective action, then it increases the penalty amount. And if it takes longer than 60 days, it increases the penalty amount again up to 90 days. And then it's at the discretion of Enforcement Division to determine whether that matter can still be resolved within SARP or the mainline program. But all of that still means that when it gets to your desks, corrective action has been taken and assessed by the Enforcement Division.
Okay, all right. And then I'm also going to assume that Mr. Marsteller, like some of us commissioners, on the ripeness issue, that there weren't actually undisclosed, uncured reports that we haven't seen, that it was just, in that instance, it was just the payment, the percentage of her salary, there was a payment, but all of the contacts but one that she later identified and came forward with were known to us and the public.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then the final point that the other commenter made, the $50 fee to not correct the report. I mean, yes, of course, that would be a lot of money, but I think, at least in my view, in this instance, if it were to happen again with either of these individuals, now that they've been put to notice that they must disclose a percentage of their salary, then I would definitely want to look at the additional penalty. But under the circumstances, I guess that's not something I feel is necessary right now. And I guess I should ask the moderator, are there any further commentators in the queue?
Yes, please stand by.
Oh, okay.
Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi, everyone. This is Matthew Alvarez from the Sutton Law Firm. I don't have a horse in this race at all, but I just was noticing that people were talking about certain exemptions for nonprofit organizations. My understanding of the law, and I just pulled it up, and this comes up from time to time, is that any 501c3, so a charity, any 501c3 employee is exempted from the lobbying laws, period, regardless of what kind of tax filings they make with the IRS. And then for 501c4s, so social welfare organizations, they only, they're exempted, their employees are exempted from the lobbying laws if they make, if the organizations themselves are quite small. So they filed what are called 990Ns or 990EZs, which basically means that they've either raised $200,000 or less in a year, or they have $500,000 in assets or less on the books at the time of the filing of the tax returns, which are generally very small C4s that fit into that category. But any C4 that is larger than that, they have to file just 990s with the IRS, Form 990s with the IRS, which are your standard tax filings, and they do have to comply with the lobbying laws. They are not exempted. And then any other type of C organization, and like Mr. Shen mentioned, like a 501c6, the trade association, they've got to comply with the lobbying laws regardless of their size. So that's just my 2 cents. I hope it's helpful. Thank you guys for your service.
Thank you, and thanks for the information. Are there any further commentators in the queue?
You're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you. Madam Chair, there's no further callers in the queue.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed. I do see Commissioner Chu. I think you had your hand up. No, not now. Commissioner Bush?
No, I actually, I think you touched on it with regard to the $50 a day. And so I take from that it's at the discretion. And maybe my clarifying question for Mr. Willett would be that under the new framework that the commission has adopted, for the streamlined processing of these types of matters, is the $50 per day fine or penalty, is that to be levied at the discretion of the commission?
Yes. So we do include modifiers in addition to the percentage of previously unreported payments received. We also add $500 if they resolve within the first 30 days, and that $500 increases as well as the percentage taken for the length of time that it takes for the corrective action to be taken and the stipulated agreement to be signed off on. And the ordinance does still allow for discretionary application of that $50. So we try to reflect both percentage and that hard modifier of a dollar amount in addition to the percentage amount in an effort to demonstrate the severity of
right.
Severity,
yeah, I mean, certainly
the significance. Yeah. Right.
Certainly application of these factors can send a very strong deterrent message, right? That if you fail to file and there's a pattern in practice, or there's a huge number of missing filings or incomplete filings, then there are consequences that flow from that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, and then Commissioner Bush, your hand is up.
I want to make sure that I understand from what Mr. Alvarez had to say that 501c3s, regardless of their size, do not have to file as lobbyists?
Actually, I was thinking on that point, given that it is a highly technical and legal area of law, that we just give the staff some time to pin that down and just provide us with a response at the next meeting, because we might just be contributing to confusion and misinformation, and I think it'd just be useful to know exactly who our lobbyist law applies to. He had also mentioned that any 501c3 employee is exempt, which if they hire their lobbyists as an employee, that's a whole nother curiosity. So with that, it's not on the agenda. I'm gonna have staff get back to us with some clarity.
In view of that, I would recommend that we push this over to the next meeting and not vote on it now.
Okay.
Until this is resolved. It's a significant issue.
Okay, I don't know that I see that it ties to this particular stipulated settlement explicitly, since this individual did file. But if that's your motion to continue this item, is there a second to put the stipulated settlement over to the next calendar?
I'll second.
Okay, so with the
Chair Ambrose,
commission.
just
Okay, go ahead.
I apologize for interrupting, but
No, please do.
before you seek a vote on that motion, I just want to clarify that as far as I can tell, SF.City is a C6 and not a C3.
Okay.
All I can say is they do file a Form 990 and file it as a 501c3. And if you go onto GuideStar, you'll find them there.
They file as a C3 and not as a C6?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
We can look into that.
And I'm assuming
Over.
the individual has signed the stipulation. We're not going to lose the stipulation by putting this over, I assume. All right. With that, can you please call the roll on the motion that Commissioner Bush made and that Commissioner Chu seconded?
Yes, a motion has been made and seconded. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush.
This is to move the item to the next month's calendar.
Commissioner Bush.
You're muted.
Sorry, aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Nay.
Chair Ambrose.
Aye.
With 4 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote opposed, the motion is approved.
With that though, just to make sure, if when you put it on the calendar, if we could have just not all the federal regulations under the IRS code, but just a quick summary of the different categories of nonprofits and which of those are subject to our lobbying rules, that would be helpful. All right, and with that, I'm going to call agenda item 7. Just looking at the time. Yeah, I can go ahead. Discussion and possible action on statement of incompatible activities, the so-called SIA, for the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, HSH. And we're going to hear from Pat Ford about the SIA. And Mr. Ford, when you start, if you can just, since we haven't seen action by the Ethics Commission adopting an SIA, since most, we haven't had any new departments in my tenure here. Can you just quickly explain what the role of the Ethics Commission is in reviewing and approving a statement of incompatible activities?
Definitely. Thank you, Chair Ambrose. Good morning, Commissioners. Pat Ford, Senior Policy and Legislative Affairs Counsel. An SIA is a statement of incompatible activities. It's essentially a statement that each city department must adopt that sets out certain activities that are incompatible with the duties of officials and employees within that department. And as Chair Ambrose mentioned, when a new department is created, that department must adopt a new statement of incompatible activities. And anytime a new statement is created or anytime an existing statement is amended, approval of the Ethics Commission is required. And additionally, the city must meet and confer with affected employee bargaining units. And that has to happen before the commission votes to approve a new or amended SIA. So in this instance, the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing was created in 2016, and this would be a new SIA for that department. And the department has already worked with the Department of Human Resources to meet and confer with a number of employee unions. The unions were first notified on April 8th of the new SIA and provided a draft of it. And on May 5th, a meeting was held to talk about the SIA with the unions. And then on June 23rd, the meet and confer process was closed out. So at this point, now the next step in the process is for the Ethics Commission to look at the SIA and to vote to approve or not approve it. And if it's approved at this point, the SIA becomes operative. The department can post it and can distribute it to its officers and employees. And as you saw in the memo, this SIA essentially mirrors the exact same language that's in most other departments' SIAs. There are a few provisions that are unique or at least different for this particular department. So I just called those out. On the second page are 3 of them. So one just says that no employee or officer within the department can be a registered lobbyist. There's also language that just clarifies that employees can engage in volunteer activities for nonprofits, and that doesn't contradict the rule for participating in activities that are subject to review by the department if it's volunteer activity. And then lastly, it says that no employee or officer can serve as a member of the board of directors of a nonprofit that applies for funding, which includes grants or contracts that are administered by the department. So those are the provisions that are kind of unique to this one. Otherwise, it identically mirrors language that's in the other SIAs. So staff is recommending that the commission approve this SIA. And also Melanie Lemon from the department is here, and she can provide any comments that she would like and also answer any questions that you might have. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Melanie. If you have any comments, Melanie, you can go ahead through the chair.
Thank you and welcome. I have a quick question. Did I read in here that the employees of this new department are all subject to the Form 700 Level 3 reporting? And if so, why is that? Doesn't this department have a fairly substantial budget and numerous contract engagements? Why would they all be Level 3 reporters? And that's to you, Pat. I'm not assuming that.
Yeah, I'm going to need a second to look at the code to see what their disclosure categories are.
I think it was in the memo. I could swear I didn't make it up. I'm pretty sure I read it somewhere. In any event, maybe Melanie, you can explain, what is the budget for the Department of Homelessness for a year?
Good morning. Melanie Lehman, Human Resources Manager for Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing. I'm actually going to, if Emily O'Cohen is on, I don't have that number memorized. It's changed. I think it's around 600 million for this fiscal year. But Emily Cohen, she is our Deputy Director of Strategy and External Affairs. If you could confirm, but I do want to just state that not all of our employees are submitting Form 700s. So
no, we wouldn't expect all of them to submit, but the ones who are making decisions about the 600 million, I would have expected them to be at least a Level 2 Form 700 filer.
Okay. So, thank you.
Chair Ambrose, I went ahead and looked that up. So the Executive Director, Deputy Directors, and Finance and Performance Manager all disclose at Category 1. And the Contracts Manager, Information Technology Director, Personnel Manager, and Homeless and Supportive Housing Program Managers all report at Disclosure Category 2.
Okay.
Which includes all investments in business positions, in business entities, and income from any source which provides or contracts with the city and county to provide supplies, materials, machinery to the department.
Okay, great. Thank you. That makes me not worry about that then. All right, thanks. Commissioner Chu, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I had a question for Mr. Ford, and the provisions that you highlighted, I noticed as well. And given the kind of ongoing and ever widening corruption scandal out of DPW, does this statement of incompatible activities capture or delineate those activities that we think should be restricted or otherwise addressed in an SIA of this nature? So that's like the first specific question for the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing. And then I guess secondarily, as other statements of incompatible activity are renewed, would these additional types of changes be inserted or recommended for those departments as well?
Thanks for the question, Commissioner Chu. My approach in looking at this SIA and looking at any SIA is to see if it's in line with other SIAs. I think any new policies that the commission would want to pursue, the SIA is not the ideal vehicle for that. The ideal vehicle for new policies is to put it in the code or in a regulation so that it applies uniformly across the board to all departments. This, unfortunately, is one of the shortcomings of the SIA model itself, is that we have as many SIAs as we have departments, and they're separate and distinct. Changing one SIA doesn't change the SIA of all the other departments. So I think insofar as new rules are needed, in light of what we've learned over the last 18 or so months, I think the code is really where I'm fixated on targeting new policies. I think this SIA lives up to what historically have been the expectations for SIAs. It's in line with what we see in other SIAs. And for that reason, I think it's appropriate to approve it. I don't think adding new provisions into this one that are in other SIAs would fix larger issues. It might be good for this department, but I think a rule that applies to all departments the same would probably be much, much better.
I agree. In an ideal world, we would have, legislation and rules that would apply equally across the board. But given the allegations that have come out of the corruption scandal, if there's an opportunity to address those in a statement of incompatible activities, as I, recall from some of the reports that came out that, there was a statement of incompatible activities and it didn't even touch on these things. But now that we know about it, why wouldn't we apply these learnings in order to deter behavior that could lead to problems down the road? And I fully appreciate that it becomes a patchwork, and in the absence of, from a policy standpoint, legislation and rulemaking is obviously the most encompassing and far-reaching and consistent way to address these issues, but meet the moment that we are in right now. And I'm not suggesting that we have to go back at this point, but I just want to make the point that how do we as an ethics commission meet this moment where the house is burning down? And while it would be great to have a full suite of fire trucks and everything, but if we have a garden hose that we can apply to the fire, shouldn't we do that as well? And this may be a broader discussion, but those were my thoughts as I read this.
No, that point is well taken, Commissioner Chu, and I don't think I'm going too far off the agenda here to say that reviewing SIAs is part of the larger ongoing conflict of interest policy project. That's going to be a later phase of the project. Right now we're looking at gift rules. That's the second phase. And in the third phase, we'll be looking at a number of different things, and SIAs are one of them. Is there a way to somehow create uniformity and drive policy that overcomes that kind of patchwork issue that you mentioned? So that's definitely on the radar, not as part of this agenda item per se, but as part of the larger policy project that we're working on.
Right. I mean, I think that it can be a both and. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. And while there and I think that there is an opportunity to have different SIAs addressing different issues, because the risks are different for a different, for different departments. Those that deal a lot with public contracting, a lot of public contracts would have different exposures and opportunities for incompatible activity versus a different type of organization, like the Ethics Commission, for example, where we don't have public contracting, and we don't deal a whole lot with revenues. So I think it's more to discuss as we go forward, but just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to actually have the moderator call for public comment on this item. If you want to, Ronald, if you wanted to make the announcement about public comment, please.
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on statement of incompatible activities, SIA, for the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, HSH. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
You're muted.
Thank you. I did see your hand up, Commissioner Bush. I just wanted to find out if we had a number of public speakers on this. So you had a comment, please.
I 2 comments. First of all, I associate myself with Commissioner Chu's observations. We do not want to make the perfect be the enemy of the good, and changing this would be good. I don't think we need to wait for the perfect. More specifically, when you get into the provisions under 3 activities that are subject to review by the department, and under A, it refers to assistance in responding to city bids and so forth, or other solicitations. No officer may provide selective assistance that is not generally available in a manner that confers a bidder or proposer, blah, blah, blah. But then it provides an exception. And that is, the exception is when it's for a charitable organization. If a board member, if a city official or employee of the department is assisting a charitable organization in its fundraising opportunities. My problem with that is that the definition of charitable organization is very broad, and I think it's too broad for what we have in mind. For example, when the mayor established the America's Cup Committee, that was a charitable organization. When the mayor established the committee to have the 100th anniversary celebration of City Hall, that was a charitable organization. In other cities, like in Los Angeles, what they have done is to narrow the definition from charitable organization to a charitable organization providing services, so that you are not cutting out the ability to assist organizations that are helping low-income people who are in need of assistance, but you are no longer providing city staff or officials to assist an elected official with their particular issues. Any elected official can set up a nonprofit, and it would be a charitable nonprofit. So I would suggest that we take a deeper look at how we are defining charitable organizations in this and in all other cases.
If I could, Chair Ambrose, I want to make sure that I understand what you're looking at, Commissioner Bush. So this is on page 4 of the SIA, talking about activities that are subject to review by the department, specifically assistance in responding to city bids, RFQs, and RFPs. And you're looking at the bolded, italicized language. Is that right? It says, no officer or employee may knowingly provide selective assistance to individuals or entities, including nonprofit charitable organizations for whom an officer or employee volunteers, in a manner that confers a competitive advantage on a bidder or proposer who is competing for a city contract. Is that the language that you're talking about? Right. That's not an exception.
The issue is not just city contracts. You have people who are organizations that are charitable organizations seeking to influence the decision about who will be hired, who will be named to a commission. And so they lobby the mayor over who will be the commissioners, or they lobby a department head as to who's going to be the enforcement actor, or they lobby over the policy of how it's going to be interpreted. There's nothing new about all of this. This is the way the world works in this city.
Right. I need to bring this back, though, to this particular department at SIA. I hear what you're saying about but specific, the point that you made is that you thought that there was an exception for an employee of the Department of Homelessness to be able to provide selective support to a charitable organization. And I think I heard Mr. Ford say, no, that's not how that reads. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, this bolded italicized language actually is just clarifying that there's no exception, that even if you volunteer for a nonprofit, you still can't provide them with any selective assistance.
Which makes sense to me. So I just not, okay. So
that's only assistance in cases of contracts. It's not assistance in lobbying for policy changes or appointments. And if you've been around City Hall, you know that that's where.
No, but we're talking about city employees. This is direction to city employees about how to conduct themselves as a city employee. The problem that you're raising, which I hear you, has to do with the activities of charitable organizations who are engaged in city activities, but not, this SIA is about, and the thing that I'm concerned about is that right now we have a Department of Homelessness that has a $600 million budget and is ramping up, and they don't have a statement of incompatible activities. So bringing it back, and we also have a lot more items on our agenda today. So bringing it back to the matter at hand, I agree with everything that you've all been saying about how we need to better integrate the good government conduct code and the regulations and the SIA, since the SIA is the thing that everybody in the department gets a copy of every year. But that's not what we're doing right now. Right now, we're trying to provide the Department of Homeless and Supportive Housing with the guidance that is just the sort of fundamentals. So to that end, I want to ask for a motion to move this SIA. And again, we can take up this larger issue, as Mr. Ford was saying, as part of the policy prioritization program, assuming we can ever get the behested payment stuff off the dime. But so thank you very much, Commissioner Lee. Sorry, we might have to take a snack break. I can see my blood sugar is dropping. Do I have a second to approve this SIA? Second. Commissioner Chu. And Mr. Moderator, can you call the roll on the agenda item 7?
A motion has been made and seconded. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush? Commissioner Bush,
No.
Okay.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Chair Ambrose.
Aye.
With 4 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote opposed, the motion is approved.
Okay, with that, it's 10:45. We could try to press forward with agenda item 8, but actually I think what I'm gonna do is, can we just take like a 5-minute break? Would that be okay with everyone? And then come back and we've got the annual report and the discussion of the performance audit on our return agenda. So 5 minutes, it's 10:45. I'll see you back here at 10:50. Thank you.
Right.
Well, I'll go ahead and call agenda item 8. I'm assuming Commissioner Bush will pop back on any second. There you are, Commissioner Bush. So, agenda item 8, discussion and possible action on the revised draft of the Ethics Commission annual report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. I'm going to turn it over to Executive Director Pelham and thank her and the staff for the work that they've done to bring this forward to us. And with that, I'm going to jump right in and open it up to comments. I see Commissioner Chu, your hand is up, but I don't know if that was from a prior.
That's from last time.
Okay. All right. So go ahead, Director Pelham, if you wanted to just present the item.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Ambrose, and good morning, Commissioners. Following the last commission meeting where you provided some feedback on the draft, the initial draft that we had on agenda for the June meeting, we took that feedback and updated the draft report for your further consideration today. Just as a general overview, what you see different in this draft than previous is that we tried to be responsive to the categorizing the information that was shown in ways that are more in alignment with the goals that we've been trying to achieve. So we've added, first off, a table of contents that you'll see that kind of walks through the various areas and breaks it up, but also divides it according to the 3 key areas that we've been focused on over the last year: to strengthen laws and heighten awareness, strengthen oversight and accountability and practice, and then also continue to really strengthen our service excellence as a department through our operational improvements. There's a final section on looking ahead that was revised some as well. So we did go through and update the year-end final numbers that we had based on our June 30th end of the fiscal year. On page 5, you'll see a graphic that includes those sort of highlights from the year at a glance. And then the report flows from there, and we've organized the summary of key highlights around programmatic administrative areas, and then group the updates that are both programmatic and operational and policy according to the goal that they're seeking to serve, starting on page 9. So certainly hope you had a chance to review it. We recognize there may be additional comments or feedback that you'd like to provide based on this draft. So happy to hear that from you today and take your cue as to how you'd like to proceed towards ultimately finalizing a report that we can distribute to the public to reflect the work that we've collectively done as an agency over the last year. I'm happy to answer any questions or turn it back to the chair. Chair, I think you're muted.
Thank you. So I was saying thank you again, and to your team for gathering all the information. Commissioner Chu, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ambrose, and also Director Pelham and the entire San Francisco Ethics Commission staff. Like, what a tremendous year. Really, just like congratulations and kudos for not only doing all this incredible work, but doing it from home, from your kitchen, like juggling childcare and stress and competing priorities with the overhang of the pandemic. So this is just tremendous, and I'm like really proud to be part of this work. And I think that the only comments that I have on the report relate to some additional headers and formatting. So for example, like on page 3, maybe right in the middle of the photo, the first paragraph, we can talk, we can put a heading in there just to break things up, and the paragraphs by topic, we could say public integrity, and then and I can send this, the granular stuff offline afterwards, but with areas of focus or program focus. And then at the very end on page 4, I would love to see under results, like the major highlights. We have the highest percentage of public finance candidates ever in the history of the program. We dispersed however many, almost $3.5 million. We closed out. So pull some of those highlights into into page 4 so that, at a glance, if the public only reads the first 2 pages, that they will come away with the key highlights of our accomplishments. And then starting on page 7, but the same theme, instead of saying programs, I would suggest grouping the work under either public finance or just, transparency, accountability, investigation and enforcement, so that instead of having to read each bullet point to find what they may be looking for, the eye is drawn to like, oh, I want to learn more about audits. And then I wouldn't lead with administration or operations. I would lead with, whatever it is, the more hard-hitting buckets of work, that are the highlights in terms of what we have accomplished, not just doing our regular business in a fully environment. I don't, that's, on page 7, I think we've done that, but I don't know that we would think of that as our biggest accomplishment this year. And then similarly, under strengthening laws and heightening awareness, what about putting, the TLDR version of just 2 or 3 bullet points at the top of each paragraph, so people don't have to read the whole thing, but just say what are the key accomplishments under effectiveness, the conflict of interest, code, so that it's there's more detail down below, but everyone can, in a quick skim, can still get the entire gist of the work that we've done this year. So I can send the comments in a PDF or email separately, but this is, I know that not only is this a ton of work to produce the report, and I think that it's really incredibly valuable to encapsulate everything that we've done in this year in particular, because this is an extraordinary year of a pandemic. But it also serves as, a one-stop resource for people who don't know much about the Ethics Commission, or who do know something and want to understand, like, what have we been doing when we haven't been at our desks in the office this past year. And I think the exercise is really well served just to see, like, what did we set out to do? How did we meet the mark? And importantly, to celebrate these successes.
Yeah, I really appreciate all of your comments. And I think there's so much information in there, and on each pass have tried to bring more of it forward, but and shifting administration and operations down and pulling up the substantive program work, not to not acknowledge how hard all of the administrative and operations, but in terms of the reading public, they'll be a lot more interested in the substance. So if you can, I know you're a great editor, if you can provide that to the director, I think those are all great suggestions.
Absolutely.
And Commissioner Bush.
You are muted, Commissioner Bush.
I'll never get that right. So I concur with Chair Ambrose and Commissioner Chu's comments that the staff has done a heroic amount of work in a year that has been extremely challenging to make sure that we are meeting the public's needs for transparency and accountability. I have several observations that I make at large. One is that this annual report, as it makes sense, focuses to such an extent on the Ethics Commission that it doesn't allow the public to see how we are tied to other parts of the city government. For example, in the charter itself, we are required to coordinate with the city attorney's office and the district attorney's office. We're required to coordinate with the controller over whistleblower complaints. So you also have to work with the Sunshine Task Force on public documents. So I think that we need to see ourselves as part of a whole when it comes to addressing ethical culture in San Francisco. In that vein, the preamble to the annual report refers to our returning to a ethical culture. And I think that's a goal, but we did not have an ethical culture that we're returning to. In fact, San Francisco lacks an ethical culture and has from its inception. The whole reason why San Francisco's city lines are drawn the way they are is because people in San Mateo County didn't want to be associated with the corruption in our city. And as I'm sure those of you who know the city's history know, at one point, the entire Board of Supervisors was arrested and put in jail, along with the mayor. And that was over corruption, taking bribes. And the reason we have the 1932 charter is because of corruption. And the reason we have an ethics commission is because of a record of corruption that was being addressed. So I think that if we say that we are returning to a ethics culture, we are stating beyond the facts and beyond what the public has come to see about the city. I think we should say that is our goal and our aim to establish a more fully ethical culture for San Francisco. Having said that, there are a number of points in this that I have outlined in emails with the executive director to explain my concerns and considerations. And I would direct those to the attention of my fellow commissioners, which I will send separately to you. But they are the basis for why I'm hesitant to endorse this as it is now. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from commissioners? All right, let's first go to the, Ronald, if you could see if we have any public comment from the public.
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action on revised draft of Ethics Commission annual report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. If you've not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
All right, public comment is closed. I'm hesitant to put this over again. It feels like we've already done that once at this meeting. I identify Commissioner Chu's recommendations as more in the nature of the presentation of the existing material. With respect to Commissioner Bush's note, I could, over a bottle of wine, sit down and debate with you in my 35 years in city government, the various times when ethical culture flourished and where and how and when it might have been dented. But if it's important to you, you can strike the word again, and then that sentence will be aspirational. I think that there's, I first of all, I want to second all of the good work of the staff. It is an impressive set of accomplishments for a very challenging year, and yet we know there's so much more that needs to be done, and we'll talk about that in the next agenda item where we reflect upon the performance audit that we got last year at about this time and where we've been and where we're going. I actually want to move the draft forward with the delegation to the executive director to hear the comments and make the improvements that can reasonably be reflected. But for my own purposes, I would like to see if there's a motion to adopt it with the direction to the executive director to incorporate Commissioner Chu's changes and Commissioner Bush's recommendations to the extent that they can reasonably be affected. Okay, and Commissioner Lee is seconding that motion. I don't know if there's any further discussion on that or friendly amendments to my long motion. Commissioner Chu.
Clarifying question, Chair Ambrose, if I may. So yes, so once the report has been revised and incorporated the various comments, could we have an opportunity to review the revised version before it is published, posted to the website? I'm not sure how that's done, like what the publication process is, but if we could see the final product before, not necessarily to delay, but simply have an opportunity to review it before it is disseminated to the world.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable. As anyone who's ever produced anything, the more editors, proofreaders, the better. On the other hand, there is a point, where it has to, you have to stop editing. But anyway, so Commissioner or Executive Director Pelham, did you want to speak to that? I don't see any reason why, if we can turn around another draft before the agenda goes out for the August meeting, make sure everybody gets a chance to see it. And if there's some reason at that point, for you to, bring it back for further commission discussion, then that would be an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ambrose. I think what will be most helpful, I appreciate and look forward to receiving Commissioner Chu's feedback as well. I did forward to you, just Commissioner Bush had mentioned feedback that he provided, and so I shared that information with you all. You've got that in your inboxes to perhaps jumpstart any further feedback you might have between now and the time this is finalized. But I think what might be most helpful is just to get a sense of direction from the Commission. If you prefer to have this on an agenda for action in August, or if you would prefer to just take a look at it and then assume that we can finalize it offline after you've had one last look at it. Just a clarity on that, if you have a strong view one way or the other, would be helpful for us for planning purposes.
So let me interject here. If you just sent all of the commissioners, Commissioner Bush's comments and your response, then you need to, I don't know what we do remotely, put that up on the website. Anything that you share, I don't know, Andrew, maybe you can help me here. Anything that you share at the meeting with all the commissioners has to be something that all of the public also has the benefit of seeing. We've already closed public comment on this item, so it's also a little awkward. But what do you think, Andrew? How do we make that available to everyone else?
I think you can simply post it on the website. And then after, if someone sees something on the version that's posted on the website, they can let Leanne know.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks for that. Commissioner Bush.
I'd like to recommend that we post it on the Facebook page, which Ethics has not updated for several years now. It would be good to have had today's agenda on the Facebook page, because we have hundreds of people who have signed that they are following us there. but they're
Okay.
not saying anything.
You know what,
So I would-
that's a different topic, and we can take up our outreach in general, but in terms of meeting the sunshine ordinance, whether it's the issue is meeting the sunshine ordinance, so putting it on the webpage is what we need to do. The other question about how we engage with the public on Facebook or other social media is a whole nother agenda item topic that I think should be taken up, because as our commenter Ellen Zizal pointed out, we need to do a lot more outreach and public engagement. Going back to your point, Director Pelham, I was trying to make a motion to delegate to you the final authority. What I'm hearing from Commissioner Bush and Chu is that they want another look. To that end, I guess I'm gonna withdraw my motion, and we're just gonna take the comment under advisement, and you can take this up again in August agenda. Is that where we're going with this? That way I don't have to worry about the public seeing Commissioner Bush's comments. So,
And as an alternative, Chair Ambrose, do you want to sort of delegate Commissioner Bush and Commissioner Chu to have one last look before it's posted as an alternative?
I mean, we can do that if that's gonna, but if they disagree, that kind of puts Director Pelham in I mean, she either has the authority to finalize it based on what we've talked about here, or she has to bring it back. So I mean, my motion is that I think we can delegate to the executive director to approve the final version of it with the comments that we've received. But if you guys want to hear it again, then that's anyway. Any other ideas about this? Commissioner Bush, do you, I gather that you're not ready to approve it in the form that it's in. Commissioner Lee, I gather that you are ready to move forward and delegate the authority. And I know that Commissioner Chu, you want to give your comments, but you want to see it. So that leaves Commissioner Bell. What are we going to do here?
Commissioner Ambrose, Chair Ambrose, just to clarify, I am fine delegating to Executive Director Pelham to finalize. I just would like to see a final version before it gets posted. I don't feel the need to put it over to the August meeting.
Okay. All right. So
I would like to point out that I think that the tone of it needs to be a little more aspirational. We have come a long ways, but we have a ways to go. And we don't even take note of the fact that we're getting credit for having acted on behested payments in a vote at the commission last November. But here we are in July, and the Board of Supervisors has yet to calendar a hearing on what we sent over there. So there are hiccups in the process that I think should be acknowledged if we're giving a report on the annual report. Our annual report is, we did the job, but we're still waiting for the Board of Supervisors to get its job done.
right, and we can send that message in a way to the Board of Supervisors with a letter of inquiry or something that is not going to be embedded in the annual report. I don't know if you recall, but last meeting when we had the draft, I asked you all if you had specific edits or recommendations for the looking forward section to be prepared to bring them forward. And I tried to write an aspirational message in the final section. So yeah, I guess I am acknowledging that there's a lot of information in there, and how we bring it forward could use some improvement and, sort of visual pop, but in terms of what I see a role of an annual report being, it's not, anyway, I'm going to stop. So, and there's the motion that I made then, I guess, and Commissioner Lee seconded, still stands with the caveat that before the executive director exercises her authority to finalize the document, that she will circulate it to the commission, and that would have to be in a, you know, a publicly available draft form, so that if at that time there was a request to bring it back before the commission, that's something that could be considered, or there's some further improvement that could be made. And with that, I'm going to ask Ronald to call the roll, because I think the big substance that we all want to get to is our performance audit and where we go from here in terms of action as opposed to reporting.
Okay. A motion has been made and seconded. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Bush.
Aye.
Commissioner Chu.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Chair Ambrose.
Aye.
Always on the go.
With five with 5 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed, the motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you for that. I'm going to call agenda item 9, discussion of possible action on the staff report regarding the status of implementation of recommendations of the August 2020 Budget and Legislative Analyst Performance Report of the Ethics Commission. And I'm going to turn it over to Executive Director Pelham. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, this is the item that provides a status report as of June 30th of the implementation so far regarding the recommendations of the that were made in the performance audit issued last August by the Budget and Legislative Analyst at the request of the Board of Supervisors. As you recall, that audit had been conducted from roughly February through August of last year, and we have been reporting since, both at the issuance of that report in January this year on sort of the status of work at that point, and then now with this report on how things stood at the end of the fiscal year. What I would first just draw your attention to is on the report, you see that there is a summary table to indicate where we were as of January of this calendar year and where we were as June 30th at the end of this fiscal year. And at this point, as you'll recall, there were 16 recommendations in the performance report, which we fully embraced and recognize that all those are strong foundations for us continuing to improve our impact as an organization and the impact of our programs. And as of January earlier this year, we had 50% of the recommendations that were in progress or completed. Another way of looking at it is that there were 50% still in the planning stages, and only 13% had been completed at that time. As of the end of this year, as you see detailed on the chart we've attached to this report, we now have 37% of the recommendations completed, 37% in progress, and only a quarter of them remain in the planning stages for activity in FY22 this fiscal year. So the report that we've attached to this agenda item details each of the recommendations, each of the 16 recommendations that were included in the BLA's report. This is familiar to you if you recall back to the January meeting, a similar chart. It shows the recommendation as recorded in the BLA audit, the due dates that the BLA audit recommended for completion of that work, our column that indicates what the status of those items, and then importantly in the notes section and the links section, this is the detailed information that is designed to help us be accountable and for you to understand and the public to understand where we are in terms of implementing those recommendations. One of the things we're very aware of is that we want to be as transparent about how that work's being done as possible. So we've identified key milestones as we've recorded them over the last 6 months or last year since the recommendations were issued by the BLA. And then also the links to the specific reports. You can see here, for example, an annual report or our ethics training plan, a lobbying audit plan project plan that we have developed with our new audit and compliance review manager since joining our staff in mid-April. And so this is a summary of where we are. I am happy to walk through any of these details with you. It's clear that a number of these items are remaining in progress with either staffing that we've just hired in the past few months, some other work that will be continuing once we have additional staffing that are expected to be onboarded this year once the city approves the budget that we anticipate, which would lead to additional resources. And so this is a work in progress, but I think we wanted to try and be as clear as possible in our notes section and with the specific recommendations where things stood and what we had accomplished in terms of the specific deliverables to this point. There's a lot of information here. I'm happy to take the chair's direction as to how you'd like to proceed. If you have questions or if you'd like me to review it in more depth, I'm happy to do whatever suits your interests at this point. And I think the chair, you're muted.
Yeah, I thank you for this. There's a lot of information, a lot of detail, a lot of work done and work to be done. And yes, getting the existing staffing positions that you've been able to achieve this year opens up the possibility for actually accomplishing all that the performance audit, set out as necessary improvements. And certainly if that budget is approved, and we won't know that for sure until when the fiscal year 2022 budget, when does that get?
I think August. I don't know the exact date. I know the Board of Supervisors goes on recess for the last part of August, so I believe that they would be acting on this prior to that time. But
I thought that they were required to adopt the budget in July. Is that, I know they made an exception because of the emergency last year, but I thought, okay.
Yeah, so before the recess, so we should know next month, I believe.
Okay. Anyway, I think probably best to go directly to commissioner comments and questions. So Commissioner Chu, you have your hand up.
No, that was from the prior agenda item. I'm just reviewing this. I don't know that I have any questions offhand. I do want to say great progress on converting those items from blue to yellow to green. So keep up the great work. And I guess I have one question. This relates to item number 10, the enhanced investigation case tracking and performance management. And maybe in the next enforcement investigation update, Mr. Pierce, you and your team could talk a little bit about what the goals are for completing investigations and interim milestones, to like, how are we measuring and what goals are we setting for ourselves to work through the backlog of cases plus additional cases that come through, and how successful are we in achieving those goals would be very helpful.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have Ron, if you could go ahead and call and see if there's any public comment on this item, and then I'll wait to see if Commissioner Bush comes back. There you are. But anyway, let's go ahead and do public comment, and then I'll come back to the commissioners.
Okay. Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, Please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action on staff report regarding status of implementation of recommendations of the August 2020 Budget and Legislative Analyst Performance Report of the Ethics Commission. If you have not already done so, please press *3. Please, if you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by.
Commissioner, Chair Ambrose, if I may, while we're waiting to see if there are any public commenters, could I ask a question of Director Pelham with regard to staffing? I'm just curious on item number 4, it says ensure adequate staffing in the Ethics Commission. I don't recall offhand what the recommendation was from the BLA as to the additional staff that was needed. And so my question is, given the additional resources that we have, plus the resources approved for the following, for this upcoming fiscal year, are we at or above the recommended staffing levels that came out in that report?
Thank you for the question, Chair Chu. The report at the time was based on the recommendations that we had made in the prior fiscal year's budget. We had included a request for ethics at work, for example, that was not funded last year. So in short, the positions that we have just filled this fiscal year bring us up to, that was progress. And I think it's fair to say that with the recommendations that we now are seeing potentially funded in the budget, we hope to be approved in the next coming weeks, we will have ensured the adequate staffing to achieve the things that we've envisioned per the BLA audit at the time it happened, and with what we have going forward. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
Thank you. Public comment is closed. I wanted to suggest that that the information contained in this chart report be appended into the annual report. I think it provides the not aspirations in terms of text, but certainly the goals that we're striving to accomplish, and it's certainly a focal point or checklist for the work program for the year, and it would nice and tidily fit in a report. So just, I don't know if anyone else sees that as something that I think the public would appreciate. It's a much more detail-oriented focus on where we're at and where we think we're going. But with that, I see. Go ahead.
We will definitely make sure that the link is live to this current report, and if it's preferred that having it as an attachment that's called out more directly and as an appendix to this report, we can do that as well. So there is a link. I think we have a link here to it, but I think it sounds like that's buried, that we would like to make sure that this is shown as an appendix.
It's an idea. I see lots of hands, so I'm gonna go to Commissioner Bell and see what his thoughts are.
Thank you, Chair Ambrose. I have, of course, kind of sat back as the newer person on this and respect the work that the staff has done in the annual report. As kind of the newest kind of looking at it with outside eyes and not having the deep history that I always love hearing from Commissioner Bush. I always learn a lot when he educates us on what's been happening in San Francisco. What isn't clear to me is the annual report supposed to be a recitation of things that happened, almost like in June we did this, and in July we did that, and in September we did this? Or is it supposed to be more of a narrative about the Ethics Commission and what its aspirations, intents, and things are in terms of successes in process and failures. So it reads to me like and I'm just commenting here. It reads to me more like a recitation of what happened rather than kind of like a narrative that one in the public could grab onto. So I really like your suggestion because the charts in this audit, even though it's more detailed, in looking at the charts, you can immediately see some progress in terms of things that we're moving towards something. So I just wanted to add that, and it's not clear to me what the purpose of the annual report is, as I've stated, narrative versus recitation. Because it was a recitation, it actually does that, but I'm not sure everybody understands what we're reciting. And if it were a narrative, just something that I put as something to think about for next year, it might read a bit differently. So I just say all that to support this kind of notion of a chart that kind of shows, what we've been doing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just so you know, I mean, historically, the limited history of the annual report is that it was a recitation, just a list of accomplishments. And then there was...
We achieved that.
Right, there was a hiatus for 5 years, and then there was a recollection that we were required to do an annual report. And so this is now a work in progress, as it were. So this was, it is mostly, it's literally a report. This happened and then that happened. But I do see in the recommendations from the budget and legislative analyst that the annual report would be better if it communicated goals and activities and outcomes and set metrics for performance. And I think that this chart, which highlights action on recommendations and is a more granular dissection of the things that we've been striving to do, what our impediments have been, where we might be able to move forward. That's why I think I appreciate that it is a link, and I love the fact that there are all those live links in the report. I actually think that a visual, going back to Commissioner Chu and Commissioner Bush's point, that if you pick it up, some people, imaginary people, would read it from cover to cover, but most people will just flip through it and see what pops out at them. And I think that this presents the information in a way that's readily accessible. So, and Commissioner Bush, please.
I have to confess that my point of view is based on about 3 decades of doing annual reports, sometimes for a political office and sometimes for a governmental office. And I understand clearly the difference between the two. And in this case, it seems like we are more of a governmental office, which means we have to some extent, as the BLA audit recommended, indicate some of our goals and how we plan on meeting them. That being said, the chart that Director Pelham created, looking at the recommendations, takes us in that direction. In that respect, one of the issues that's raised is our ability to close cases. And I'm not sure that I get a clear sense from this of the fact that we have cases that we are waiting to hear back from the city attorney or the district attorney. And in the BLA's review, they cited one particular referral, which we're required by the charter to do, sitting at the city attorney's office for 2.5 years, which is a long time for wait for something to come back. So to what extent can our report on case closes acknowledge the fact that it's not always in our hands alone, but it's a shared duty under the charter?
If I might answer, Chair Ambrose?
Please.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Commissioner Bush. As you can see from the recommendation 9, the BLA recommended that we have both an annual case closure, rate that we've identified and goals about how we're going to go about doing that, which we've identified in the case closure plan that we created this past year. And then also to report on progress quarterly to the commission. So based on that, our first report would be at the end of the first quarter of this fiscal year to give you a specific update about where things stand per that closure plan. And the referrals to the city attorney's office or DA's office is something that we certainly would include in that. So we would anticipate those being reported regularly on a quarterly basis as recommended by the BLA.
The other question I have is that the charter requires city commissions to have a commission secretary. And now that we're staffed up to 35 positions, up from 15, I believe it was when you came on board, Director Pelham, what are the plans for a commission secretary?
We have not requested in our budget to date, and I don't at this point have a reason to anticipate that in our coming budget year. That's obviously up for discussion, but we have not to date because in my judgment, the programmatic work that you see we have not been able to achieve over the years, lacking the programmatic resources we've had, has been an issue. That's been a priority for me, in my view. So again, whether the commission believes that it is essential to have a commission secretary to perform those functions is something that we can consider every year we're putting together a budget. It hasn't been a priority for me because I believe that many of the functions that role serves are accomplished by your programmatic staff and by your executive director.
Well, I just like to note that it's not up to you and it's not up to the commission. It's in the charter, and it's not if we'd like to do it, we will do it under the charter. So as long as we're going to hold people accountable for complying with the charter, we should start by doing that ourselves. So I would recommend that we take another look at that and we bring it back to the commission for discussion. Clearly, as we've heard testimony, people are feeling like they don't have direct access to the commission and to the work of the commission that a commission secretary is actually designed to do. So I would ask that that be included as we consider the update on staffing at the commission. Thank you.
I don't know if there's any other comments from the commissioners. We don't need a motion to approve this. I think it's, we've mostly would want to see this calendared regularly so that we can check in, particularly, I would say, after the budget goes through and you know what your resources are going to be, recognizing that even if you get the new positions that are necessary, that it'll be months before you can get the job announcements and interviews and another round of hiring. But I think then you'll be in a much better position to say how we might really be able to knock all of these things into the green category and go about setting new aspirational goals for the commission. So thank you for this. This is a really useful document. And with that, I'm going to close this agenda item and move on to agenda item number 10.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Chair Ambrose, but I just want to verify, Commissioner Chu and Commissioner Bell, did you have anything further that you wanted to bring up? I noticed that the hands are raised. And if you don't have anything else, can we? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, that was previous hand raising.
Yeah, I made that assumption, but thanks for checking.
Doesn't hurt to ask just in case. You never know.
All right, so agenda item number 10, discussion of executive director's report, an update of various programmatic and operational highlights of Ethics Commission staff activity since the Commission's previous meeting. Director Pelham.
Great, thank you. Thank you again, Chair Ambrose. This report just gives some highlights. I think the budget news is something we have discussed. Since the June meeting, our Deputy Director, Gayatri Teichendiel, did appear before the Board of Supervisors Budget Committee and presented the Commission's budget, noted the Mayor's full endorsement of the recommendations the Commission had made. There was no discussion or questions at that time. Apparently it was quite a long day, but there were no questions or discussion of the Commission's budget. So we understand from the Mayor's Budget Office that there have been no changes or in recommendations to our budget. Again, if it moves forward as we anticipate, based on that, we should have the additional funding to a budget of roughly 6.5 million starting this fiscal year when the money is appropriated and the positions are authorized, which is tremendous news. And we're very much rolling up our sleeves and looking forward to getting that work accomplished. The report also has an update on the behested payments ordinance. I know that this is something that has been ongoing, pending before the Board of Supervisors for some months now. We anticipate that there has been no action to date. We know that there has been, the budget season has consumed much of the board's attention, but we are, once the board recesses in August, it seems unlikely that they would be continuing to take up items between now and then, given the budget is still not yet approved by the full board. They have a recess beginning July 27th, running through Labor Day. So we will be in communication, continuing to be in communication with members of the board to seek the Rules Committee chaired by Supervisor Peskin to take up that issue as soon as possible this fall. I also just had a brief update. Yesterday afternoon, had an update from staff regarding the lobbyist databases. Last month, I reported that we'd been working on a multi-year project to implement some significant enhancements to our lobbying electronic disclosure filing system and the public portal that we use to go access that information and summarize and evaluate the information that's there. So I reported last month that we were integrating our new disclosure tool, this API, or application programming interface, I believe is the long word for it, to have our lobbyist data now updated and fully accessible through the portal at Data SF. That data has now been updated. So I just wanted to close that loop. It's not something that I had written in the report, but it was something that was we confirmed yesterday that I just want to make sure you were aware of. That provides now information for the public to be able to go and have new and improved ways to review lobbyist directory, disclosed activity, all electronic registration and monthly reports since 2010. So this provides a more robust way for the public to be able to access and review, download that information and work with it as they'd like to. One other note on hiring, as we've discussed, we do have the two positions that were vacated this spring through staff attrition. We have moved into the candidate application review phase for our senior investigator and legal analyst position. And we also have posted and are now accepting applications, I believe, through today for our auditor position. So those positions are moving as the prior 5 positions were on an expedited hiring track. And we know that if the positions that have been approved, if they are approved in this budget, we also know that we will be moving forward on an expedited hiring process for those positions as well in our investigative performance reporting and ethics at work. 2 last notes. One, Commissioner Bush had asked since our last meeting, I think at the last meeting, had asked for an update on the redistricting commission. And so we have, looked at that. We know that there are a number of city provisions that apply to individuals who will be appointed to the redistricting commission. We'll be working internally to put together some information for the website that helps the public understand what those rules are that apply to that, ethics rules that apply to the redistricting commission members as city officials who will be filing Form 700s with the clerk of the board's office. So look forward to that, and we can probably have that as part of next month's executive director's report. We did not have further information to report at this point on the Racial Equity Action Plan. We're incorporating our goals for our hiring process from that. But in terms of other reported work, I'm hoping that we'll have a report to provide to you in October that Gayatri Tykentil and I will be working with DHR and our staff further on. Lastly, the city's reopening update. There's a lot of information that I linked to from this report. There have been a number of developments related to the city's ability to move forward with greater physical presence because of all of what we've seen so far is good news in terms of case reductions and vaccine increases. So I've attached those policies here. They are policies and developments that we as a department will be working to put together. Part of this will look at how we manage in a post-COVID environment with our work in terms of, is it a hybrid on-site remote model? And so there are some requirements that we have to fulfill before we can actually develop and present a plan for how we're doing that. But I think we're all looking forward to sort of sorting through and really applying the lessons that we've all learned from how we go about working both with the public, with each other, through commission meetings through this past 16 months or so. And we're looking forward to keeping those lessons very much in focus as we continue to serve the public. We do understand that there may be some developments in September for commissions, board and commissions, to start meeting physically in City Hall. We don't have specific guidelines or recommendations on that yet, but the mayor is having her first reunion, I guess is the word, physical reunion of department heads next Wednesday. So we will be getting more updates from the health folks and the city administrator on plans for use of City Hall, as well as plans that affect the city's workforce overall. This will be a significant part of our focus as well to make sure we do this smoothly, safely, and sanely, and we'll keep you posted as much as we can with the information that we have. I think that's all that I wanted to highlight. That's pretty much everything in the report, but I appreciate your patience and happy to answer any questions.
So just a quick clarification on the last point before I forget. So the board's on recess until August, and the mayor's not going to make any recommendations about the emergency declaration and how to handle public hearings until September. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case or if something will be issued in preparation for some new changed use of City Hall space. We haven't seen that yet, but we know that there are offices working, spending a lot of time working to provide that guidance or direction. Last we heard was that it was roughly around September that boards and commissions were likely to start meeting in physical spaces again once in City Hall. But that's really all I know at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that. Commissioner Bush, your hand is up.
Thank you. On the issue of the commission's work on equality, I would like to suggest that we do a survey of staff to see how many are receiving a bonus for foreign language facility. And even if they're not receiving a bonus for it, what are the language capacities that exist at the commission so that we can take note of that as we do our outreach. Thank you.
Commissioner Chu.
Thank you, Chair Ambrose. I would like to associate myself with Commissioner Bush's observations and comments on that. I think that is really important information to know. So I had one question and an observation. Director Pelham, with regard to the behested payment legislation that's stalled at the Board of Supervisors, so do I take that it is unlikely that it will be heard at the Rules Committee prior to the July recess?
That would be my estimate and assessment based on what we've seen so far. Pat Ford is here to join us if he has further information, but last I heard, we did not anticipate movement unless we have new word from Pat. Happy to turn it over.
Yeah, thanks, Director Pelham. Through the chair, I did hear from Supervisor Haney's office today that they've requested that Supervisor Peskin, who chairs the committee, call the item at the committee's July 19th meeting. So they haven't gotten any confirmation yet, but that is what they've requested. So I will continue to monitor that and I'll keep you posted.
Please do, and let me know if we as commissioners could be of any assistance in encouraging that the Rules Committee hear this item. As Commissioner Bush pointed out, this was sent over to them last year, I believe. Was it December of 2020? And if it's not taken up until September, no, they will lap themselves. And was it November?
Yeah,
yes.
November,
So
yeah.
this is, and to Commissioner Bell's point, what's the narrative? Is kind of, people can interpret data, and that if it's not things that are important get focused on, right? And if it's not focused on or acted upon, and it's been sitting there for them to move forward. I think that says a lot about where their priorities are. So anything that we can do to help expedite that process at the Rules Committee, please let us know. And then on the city reopening piece, I hope that the city will provide flexibility to departments to be able to adjust to the new reality, because I think that just focusing on the Ethics Commission, the 16 months of this pandemic has been about pivoting and adapting and demonstrating tremendous flexibility to be able to do the tremendous work that is captured in the annual report. And when I hope that it's not going to be a mandate, you must go back by by date certain, because I think there are a lot of learnings that will have come out of this pandemic experience that I think it will be important to bring to bear and to create a new kind of normal. I don't think that it's going to be going back to the way it was pre-pandemic, because we've come through so much together. And so, please also, again, let us know if there's anything we can do to help. But just from my own standpoint, I think that the work is really critical, and I think that we all want to be in person again and to see each other, connect, and make meaning, of the work that we're doing together. But I also think that where we are as a commission is at a very unique inflection point. The mayor and the board of supervisors, have demonstrated, support and endorsement of our work, and a belief that in our abilities and our expertise, because they, knock on wood, it's not done yet, but what's in the budget for them to approve, hopefully later this month, is a 39% increase. It's almost 40% more money than we've had just this past year, and certainly it'll be even greater than that compared to the initial budget when I first joined the commission, and a 33% increase in staff. So we're going to go from I think 24 to 33. My math may be wrong, but it's an enormous increase. And I think that what that shows is that they believe that we have, and I believe that the commission has the strategic vision and the operational expertise to really make San Francisco government transparent and accountable, and to catalyze and nurture and grow a compliance mindset and a compliance culture here, which, given the backdrop of what we've been operating against, is needed now more than ever. And so in this extraordinary moment, we have this extraordinary opportunity to meet this moment and make our mark. And so, I would just ask, Director Pelham and the entire SF, Ethics Commission team, to look ahead and remember the work, like what we're here for, and that as we navigate our way together, through all this, how do we take the great things that we learned in the pandemic around teamwork and collaboration, and being virtual and not being able to work to hash things out, face to face, and all of that creativity and adaptation that we have demonstrated and perfected over this long time. And how do we marry that with like the real power of in-person like brainstorming and just like having coffee and eating donuts together? And how do we bring that together into a new normal? And I for one believe that this team is going to knock it out of the ballpark, and that together we can we can do great things, even greater things. And it might not look like what it was before, and it shouldn't look like what it was before. I think it can be even better, and I think that we have the power to shape it so that we can deliver on this like really timely and critical mission. And because the board, the mayor, and the people of San Francisco are all counting on us, and can't wait to see the amazing results.
Yeah, so keep us posted, Director Pelham, so we know what's happening next after you have your mayor's department head meeting. With that, I'm going to go ahead and call agenda item 11, which is discussion and possible action on items for future meetings.
Did you want to, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you want to do public comment for this agenda item?
I did do public comment on the executive director's report before we started discussion, didn't I? I mean, somebody who's taking notes, please confirm that. But I'm pretty sure I called for public comment and there were none. All right, who's taking notes?
I'm taking notes, Chair Ambrose, and maybe I missed it, but I don't have a note that we did public comment for item 10.
I don't think you did, Chair.
Oh, sorry, caught me. Okay. Can you please read the direction for item 10, public comment?
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item 10, discussion of Executive Director's report, an update of various programmatic and operational highlights of Ethics Commission staff activities since the Commission's previous meeting. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
All right, thank you for that. So public comment on agenda item number 10 is closed, and I'm going to call agenda item number 11, which is discussion and possible action on items for future meetings. If any member of the public intend to offer public comment, they should dial in now and enter *3. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any matters that they would like to have calendared for future meetings? Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to, for the August Commission meeting, put on the agenda a mid-year presentation by the Director on the Racial Equity Plan.
Okay, I think the Executive Director said that she was planning on doing that in October. I don't know if that's because that's when there's a review with the city's Department of Human Resources work program, but in any event, I will let you speak to that, Director Pelham.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ambrose. We had been planning to have our first quarterly report for this fiscal year on the status of the implementation of our Racial Equity Action Plan following the first calendar quarter, so it would be at the October meeting. If the commission would like more information sooner, it's likely that we'll say we're working on a variety of things, but we don't really have a lot to describe in detail yet. So I think my preference would be that if we can have something to report back to you on after the first quarter and then regularize that sort of reporting going forward, that might be most useful and productive from our standpoint. But again, obviously want to hear from the commission's direction as to how you'd like to proceed.
All right.
Madam Chair, if I may, the reason why I wanted to have a discussion or to get a progress report next month is as we are getting ready to hire more workers with the new budget, and as the ethics work program is going to get into gear, it would be helpful for us to really look at the plan and see where we can really address some of the issues, such as how are we going to reach out to, some of the underserved communities, not underserved, but communities who have not been traditionally familiar with the commission. So I don't want to wait for a few months. I do want to look at where we are at so that we can address some of the potential shortfalls we may have, especially with all the new programs coming in. So it doesn't have to be a thorough presentation, but just an update for us to look at where we are, and then we can just move from there.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Bush,
Thank you. Yes, I think Commissioner Lee is exactly correct. And I think the timing of doing it in July also works well as the new school year gets started, because so many schools do take an opportunity to view their community's participation in government. One of the things that I think needs to be clear to people is that participation translates into action in their communities. And it's one of the reasons why we have a deficit in some parts of the city, at the same time we have a deficit in participation from those parts of the city. So they go together. I'd like to add for an agenda item, general public outreach, not simply on equity issues, including the use of social media and the purposes of a commission secretary as part of our outreach and participation. And as part of that, I would hope that the staff will prepare a report for us on actual levels of human participation, either in our commission meetings by they've called in or by submitting written comments, which I've never seen on our commission calendar, or participating in IP meetings. Any measurement that they have that shows that we have engaged the public more directly, I think if they could break that down into underserved communities and versus interested parties who have a professional reason to be present, would be useful as part of a outreach, so we can see where we are and where we need to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further recommendations for future action? Seeing none, I'm going to call for public comment. Mr. Moderator, could you please read the instructions?
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of agenda item 11, discussion and possible action on items for future meetings. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
All right, so public comment on agenda item 11 is closed, but now, because of our rules, we are going to ask if there's any public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda pursuant to Ethics Commission bylaws, Article 7, Section 2, Agenda Item 12. Can you please read the instructions and see if there's any commentators in the queue?
Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. Once again, for those already on hold, please continue to wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted. If you have just joined this meeting, we are currently on the public discussion on the motion of Agenda Item 12, additional opportunities for public comment on matters appearing or not appearing on the agenda pursuant to Ethics Commission bylaws, Article 7, Section 2. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to be added to the public comment queue. You will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You'll hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please stand by. As a friendly reminder to anyone of the members of the public comment may also be submitted in writing and will be shared with the Commission after this meeting has concluded and will be included as part of the official meeting file. Written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Once again, written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Madam Chair, we have no callers in the queue.
All right, thank you for that. Public comment is closed on agenda item 12, and now for agenda item 13, which is adjournment. I want to thank you all for participating today, and we've decided we don't need a motion to adjourn, so I'm just gavel down. You all have a wonderful month of July. Take care.
Thanks,
everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.